Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tina-Desiree Berg reporting for Status Coup News. Today is Friday. It's March 1st, and it is time for some right-wing insanity report. This week, we have several special guests joining me, and we are going to do a deep dive into CPAC, which happened last week. Lots of crazy stories, lots of repeat characters. But here to join me to tell the story is Amanda Moore. You've seen her writing recently in The Nation. She was kicked out of CPAC, had her credentials removed. She's going to take us through that story and some other things. We have Zach Roberts joining us, who is a East Coast-based journalist. We've had him on the show before. He covers a lot of right-wing extremism and voter suppression issues. And we have Anarchy Princess, who has been on the street corner of the Freedom Corner down in Washington, D.C., pretty much every Friday now for over a year. We highlighted some of her coverage a couple weeks ago. And then we have Eric Levai when he does join us. I think he's having some tech issues, but he's going to chime in and talk to us too. All right, we got everybody but Zach. Where's Zach? There's Zach. And in fact, Zach, you just had a piece that came out in Beacon. Wait, what's the name
Bucks
of it?
County Beacon, yeah.
Bucks County Beacon. Bucks County Beacon. And the headline on this was, which will die first, American democracy or CPAC? I thought this was a great question. And as such, I want to pose this question to each guest and have you answer what your thoughts are on that. Of course, starting with you, Zach.
Well, my conclusion is maybe simultaneously. I think I've talked to a lot of journalists who cover CPAC regularly, and a lot of them are like, this is the last year. And I know a lot of people that cover the death of American democracy, and a lot of them say this is the last year. I mean, the number of journalists that I've talked to and people that, research and cover that say that, this is very possibly the last American election with 50 states. And so the idea that CPAC is dwindling basically because they're not as extreme as say TPUSA or AFPAC or any of these things isn't too surprising, especially considering they have crazy mainstream thoughts that it's maybe Putin is a bad guy, and the audience doesn't like that. Right. The audience doesn't like that, and compared to last year, I would say we're probably at 60% attendance, and I think that might be generous. If you take out Trump's, which is always going to be big, but it wasn't definitely even as big as Trump's last year. So yeah.
Before I move to Amanda, let me ask you one other question. Do you think that's affected by America First? Originally, the last couple of years, they were doing a separate but at the same time convention that was bringing in some people, do you think? And not anymore? What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I don't think the Fuentes crowd was really that big of a number, but I think that the kind of the world of, there's just not young people there. TPUSA is the draw for young people. Obviously, I mean, that's kind of the whole mentality of it. But it's not, I don't think Fuentes is drawn. He didn't even have a thing this year as far as anyone's seen, at least. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That seemed to maybe be the differentiator there. Amanda, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, CPAC is cooked. I mean, it's the end. My first CPAC was 2009, and that was bigger than the one. It was just that. And I actually thought a lot of the coverage last year of how empty CPAC was pretty unfair, but it is way, way empty this year. I mean, I was only there for 2 hours, but the 2 hours I was there were very, very empty 2 hours. So, if Trump wins, maybe there's more CPACs, but no more democracy. And if Trump loses, there's probably no more CPACs, and democracy is up in the air. So it's really hard to say.
There's a few options there. Anarchy Princess, did you notice a bigger crowd down at the Freedom Corner this Friday?
Well, yeah, they had some leftovers from CPAC come down. Normally, Freedom Corner gets 5 to 10 at the most, but on Friday night after CPAC was over, a bunch came down. And then it was a small crowd again on Saturday because Trump was speaking. But I definitely, CPAC is washed up. I mean, all those people at Freedom Corner are live streamers. And so they were live streaming at CPAC. And I was there last year and I watched the streams, and there was definitely less people. There was a lot of things that were offensive because it wasn't extreme enough. So, I call them
Right.
chuds. The chuds were offended by someone in drag. They were
Right.
offended by someone, I apparently on the security team, had false eyelashes, and that bothered them. And the Groypers, Nick Fuentes got kicked out last
Right.
year, so they really couldn't do much. And then even George Santos, I don't even think he was at CPAC, but he spoke out. That's like, even like Amanda had this experience, as a journalist. She, couldn't go in that way, and then had to buy a ticket, and the tickets were like $300. So
Yeah.
their audience that's going there is probably, I mean, I wasn't there in person, but I'm assuming more over 50 crowd, right? So $300 a pop, and then tickets and the hotel prices. I think it's washed up. And if Trump gets elected, democracy's over, and I need to get a passport and get out of here. So.
Right. Let me ask you this. The theme I feel like I'm hearing is that CPAC is no longer extreme enough. So I'd like all of your thoughts on that. And saying it isn't extreme enough is kind of wild, because I think it's far more extreme than it used to be. So is the Overton window so far shifted to the right within the GOP at this point that it's just untenable? Let's start with you, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that you don't have last year, I think they tried really, really hard to be kind of the crude offensive, but they don't really understand on how to do it. So basically it just started, every single person last year started or ended their time with just a terribly offensive anti-trans joke. There was at least 5 speakers who had like a bit, and it just became a point that I know it was Michael Knowles was the one person that his ending trans people, basically his joke, I'm putting up quotes for anyone just listening, was got the news, but every single person did it. And this year I think they tried to, I don't know if they tried to go more serious or not, but I mean, it was just kind of to some extent like what it was many years ago, when it comes to in quotes seriousness. But the problem is that their serious level is basically like Reagan era kind of republicanism, and they're trying really hard to be something more than that. But that obviously isn't where the Republican Party is now, where it's a whole new, it's, anti-interventionism, it's, extreme culture wars and things like that. So I don't see how it's going to come out the other end.
Okay. What about you, Amanda? What do you think?
I mean, even the Nazis are like, this is done.
This is
like, there's nothing to recruit here. It's too much. Because last year they were all hyped. They were like, we are going to go back to CPAC next year, and we're going to dress nice and be nice, and these boomers are going to love us because we're young men.
Right.
And this year they were like, oh my God, this is so boring. So I think the audience pool is down too low, and that if you look at Matt Schlapp refusing to acknowledge that literally someone did a Hitler salute on me. And
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but just responding well, I love Israel. I mean, it's pretty easy to denounce Nazism, and a lot of Republicans do this. I know we have the perception they don't, but it still happens.
Right.
It is very much, he's clearly trying to walk some kind of line, because I think he's still hoping, hey, maybe they'll come back. But it's not, and Turning Point USA is free if you're a student. It's meant for students. So they get all the boomers to pay, and the boomers want to be cool with the young people, and the young people are like, you're on our turf. And Kirk has ceded a lot of ground to them. So I think, CPAC, it's just too little too late at this point, no matter what they try to do, because Turning Point USA has just run laps around them in terms of extremism and fun,
Indeed. In fact, I want to, before I move to Anarchy Princess, I want to address something you said about Matt Schlapp. I did see that he had basically said, I'm not anti-Semitic. I hate Nazis because I support Israel. But this is just a nonsense response. There are plenty of Zionists that are also white supremacists. Richard Spencer comes to mind. They love the idea of an ethno state. They love the idea that it sort of handles the JQ for them, right? we no longer have to worry about Jewish people if they all go to their own homeland and they self-select to leave, right? So this is definitely not an excuse for not being Semitic, right? This is just a stupid thing, and it's not very nuanced. And I guess Matt doesn't realize how ridiculous he sounds when he says that, but I did see that.
He does. That's why he was subtweeting me instead of addressing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Anarchy Princess, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think the Overton window is so far to the right at this point that what's been normalized is just what it is?
Did you see the speakers they had this year? I mean, they had Steve Bannon, who's waiting to go to prison, Peter Navarro, who's going to prison with like dirty sweatpants. I mean, at least like TPUSA gets drunk Roseanne Barr. These guys had no one. It was boring. Everything was expensive. They had to pay $20 for chicken fingers. Like, there was nothing to do. So
I particularly laughed at Steve Bannon wearing 4 shirts at one time. I saw that.
That's his look. And I couldn't tell if I've only seen Navarro like in a suit and tie, and then I've seen like a picture of him on a bike, and he looked crazy in DC. But anyway, I don't know if he threw that outfit together for CPAC on his own, or if he was trying to look like Bannon. He had like this green jacket on and the Washington Nationals t-shirt, these dirty sweatpants, and then the same terrible shoes he's been wearing to court every single time. So
it's pretty funny. Eric, we've got you now. Is your audio and everything working?
Can you hear me at all?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Oh,
Eric, so give us your thoughts on this. We're talking about which dies first, CPAC or democracy. That's on the table. So I'd like your thoughts on that.
Wow. Yeah, in the mood I'm in right now. Well, let's be optimistic and say CPAC, but I'm not in a great mood. So yeah. And there's a lot of CPAC. Like, am I crazy, by the way? Weren't there like 5 CPACs last year? It seems like they kept expanding.
Yeah. My answers were all for domestic CPAC. I want to be very clear, not CPAC Hungary. That'll live forever.
Oh yeah. Just a normal event in Hungary. Yeah, that was cool.
I mean, Hungary, we'll table that for another day, but Hungary does have a fascist president right now, so there's that. Right now, I want to turn to some things that actually happened on the floor at CPAC, starting with Trump's speech. I think it's pretty clear at this point that Trump is going to be the GOP nominee for the Republican Party. I think it's also pretty clear at this point that he might, be facing very serious criminal charges before November. So who knows? But let's take a look at some of his clips and digest and react to what he said.
Biden and his deranged prosecutors, attorney generals, local district attorneys are trying to take away my liberty. They're trying to take it away. They're trying to steal my liberty. If there's any shred of justice left, they will fail and we will win. And so far, we're doing very nicely. Thank you. But I would rather lose my freedom than surrender to this group of thugs and tyrants, and fascists, scoundrels, and rogues. The more the corrupt establishment tries to stop us, the more the day is near at hand when we will break free from their grip. We're going to break free very soon. We're going to break free from their grip very soon.
This is typical Trump speech, I think, but it's opposite day all the time with Trump, right? They're taking away his liberty, he never addresses any of the things that he's done that are illegal, right? God forbid he's accountable for anything. And everybody else is the fascist. Let's start with you, Eric, on this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it is like, I guess it's a cliche at this point, what they call psychological projection. Also, I don't usually weigh in on like the medical stuff because I'm not a doctor, but I mean, he does look like worse and worse legitimately. And sometimes it looks like he can barely stand up. So, I mean, I'm not like what's the word, I'm not a doom and gloom person, but, the one thing I'd say, and by the way, I'm sorry about the audio issues because I'm really I'm super looking forward to hearing what Amanda and Zach and Anarchy Princess have to say about this. The only other thing I would say is that this is not a normal country, obviously, because I can't think of any other example where someone who, led an insurrection and a coup is the leading candidate. We're wildly outside the bounds of anything that is normal. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Zach, what do you think?
I mean, being in the room when Trump made the speech, it was serious. Well, he comes out, and one thing that you didn't see, and this is like such a inside baseball thing, but he had one of his staff or somebody from CPAC come out, and the flag that he hugged, you've seen all those photos, they prepared it for him. They literally put it in, they like must have done like a twist tie or something like that to like make sure it looks just the right way. So when he comes up to it, and he literally has his hands out, like
that's wild.
Like he's about to molest it, and then he comes up and like and hugs it and kisses it and everything like that. It was one of the more, I mean, I've had a lot of surreal moments in my life, and like I was in the room for the last time that he did it, but I missed the photo of it, but I have photos of it, and it's just like, and then the fact that he walks out and the imagery is die in big letters on either side as he walks out. Like I have this photo where it literally says "goes to die" as Trump walks out of the stage, and it's just like they gave that to me. Like they gave that to everybody on the side. All the photographers, that was the angle that they put us on.
Why did it say die?
What's that?
Why did it say die?
It says the conference's title was "Where Globalism Goes to Die." And so the big, like it says "die" in like 4-foot high letters on either side of him. And it says "goes to die" obviously above it. And so the crop of the photo is obviously is goes to, but anyway, classic. Yeah, no, it was interesting because his entire speech, he did this thing where he set up, and mind you, again, he's reading off of teleprompters. So this is all set up and it is written in the speech where he sets a seed of a story that he's going to come back to halfway through the speech to prove, and he notes it in the speech to say, look see, I made this reference, and everybody in the media back there thinks that I'm, my mental stability. Joe Biden could never do this. I referenced the thing that I started at the beginning of the speech 45 minutes later. If you go about, I think it's like 45 minutes into the speech, he does this great thing, and the audience is like, oh, like, and they love it so much because like, oh, our man is so smart. Our man, he has his brains all together. They are, filled with virality. And so like that was the entire, like that was the big thing of the speech. Everything else was like, standard Trump talking points about, anti-immigrants, they're coming across the border to vote and whatever BS. But like that was like the big thing. And it's like I had a member of the media who's usually people don't like the press.
Are they coming for you, Anarchy Princess?
No, that's just the sounds of DC.
Okay.
Sergeant Jackson.
They might be arresting another J6er somewhere, though.
The insurrection is going on.
Yeah,
Move your head a little bit. Is there anyone taking a cap?
Is that David Valentine?
Sure, man.
That's the yellow Sizzler back there.
Sorry about that. I'm so used to it. It didn't even occur to me that you guys could hear it. My bad.
That's all right. No, that's all right. Finish up, Zach. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, basically it was just like it was so bad that like a member of the press corps who usually like, no one talks about, like press corps is way like even most like mainstream politicians or more mainstream journalists don't they don't want to like they don't talk partisan kind of politics to each other, that type of thing. The especially like the White House kind of core
correspondence,
press corps, they don't really talk anything. Like I'm the like crazy leftist. Well, I'm usually the crazy leftist, whatever, in the crew, and they mostly they know me, so they whatever. But even one of them like leaned over to me and was just like, they know he's reading off a teleprompter, right? Like this whole story is just BS. The fact that his mental acuity is just he's reading off a teleprompter, something he made fun of continually throughout the. Anyway,
right.
That's the Trump experience.
No, I think that's fair. What about you, Amanda? What are your thoughts?
I would like for that clip to play without the chyron below it, because it really looks like he's like leaning on something. I don't know, Zach, like what's going on? Because you were there. I was obviously banned, but like what? Is he standing up on his own? Because it really doesn't look like it. I
mean, he has this like weird lean, which many people on Twitter have like talked about it, but he definitely does have that weird lean that like people when you get older, like your back, whatever, it's kind of natural. Like we focus obviously and understandably, and I think correctly, a lot on Biden's octogenarian status, but Trump is only 2 years.
They're both in that status.
Like,
as
I
far
mean,
as
it's
I'm
just
concerned.
not that, like, it's no difference. Like, once you get into that range, like,
Yeah.
but he is, you know, he's also considerably less healthy. And I say that as a person who is not that healthy. Like, I'm not judging here, but I'm just saying, like, a man who lives on, you know, hamburgers and McDonald's and Diet Coke is not.
You've only got finite energy, Zach.
Yeah,
When you use it all.
Oh
up,
yeah,
you
that's
die.
true.
That's
Yeah.
what
He
it
doesn't.
says.
That's why he doesn't exercise.
Yeah.
You know, that's true.
Yeah.
That's why I try to tell my doctor, and he just, you know, shakes his head at me.
He shakes his head. Anarchy Princess, what are your thoughts on this, especially from the point of view of you've been out there on this Freedom Corner with the J6ers like every Friday?
I mean, they're doing the same thing at Freedom Corner. He's saying they're taking his liberties. I mean, what liberties? He committed crimes and fraud. Okay, so criminal and civil cases, many times over.
Exactly.
And it's the same rhetoric like at Freedom Corner. They're political prisoners. You know, they're not getting fair and speedy trial. They're being tortured in jail. Okay, but if anyone from the left, you know, had all of these arrests, accused of rape, accused of fraud, accused of election fraud, like, these people would literally hang them, right? But now all of a sudden they did nothing wrong. Like, nothing was taken from him. He created this situation, and it's very problematic because it's not just him lying. Like, he's lying, and then all of these crazy people that insurrected the Capitol right here behind me, it's because they believed that his freedoms were stolen, and, you know, tyranny and all of that. And he doesn't have to do anything. All he has to do is get up there and read that teleprompter and look smart. I mean, Biden doesn't give the best speeches. They're both old, like, realistically. Okay, so Biden says, you know, silly things sometimes, but Trump does too, and they never will say anything about that. So Biden is too old, but Trump's leaning. He can barely talk. So
no, you're right. They don't apply universal standards across the board. They pretend to be the party of law and order, but that's not really what's at play here. I really think that the GOP at this point wants Pinochet's army. They don't want laws to be applied universally. They want law enforcement to be an extended arm of whatever it is that they want. And that's no longer law and order. It indeed is not constitutional. So there's some hypocrisy there. Let's play the next clip.
For hardworking Americans, November 5th will be our new Liberation Day, but for the liars and cheaters and fraudsters and censors and imposters who have commandeered our government, it will be their Judgment Day. Their Judgment Day. When we win, the curtain closes on their corrupt reign and the sun rises on a bright new future for America. That's what we have to have.
Liberation Day. So basically, voting day when he thinks he's going to win the election is going to be Liberation Day. I think that if Trump wins this election, and I think there's a good chance that he might, that he is absolutely going to pardon the January 6ers. I want to start with Anarchy Princess on this one. What do you think?
I don't think he's going to win, or he's going to be in prison or something. Okay, so the January 6ers, right? Freedom Corner, there's like separate J6ers. There's the people that listen to the Freedom Corner, and there's the people that listen to their attorneys. And anyone that listens to Freedom Corner is not taking a plea. And they're all going to trial because Ashley Babbitt's mom, Mickey, and Nicole Reffitt, and all of them are like, if you go to trial, you get it on record. Okay, so when Trump becomes president, there's all this evidence there. You know, Roseanne Boylan was murdered. All the rhetoric they have. Plea, they don't put any of that out there. You know, but in trial, they go through all of that. So Trump would become president, and then he would pardon them, and then all this court stuff would be proof of this Fedsurrection. Right? It wasn't them that did anything. It was the feds that incited them, and here is the proof. But if Trump pardons the J6ers, they're just going to do it again. We're not done. That was just a test run. Now they'll feel. I mean, they won't be afraid to go to prison. They won't be afraid. Their president is telling them it's legal, and I'll just get you out.
Indeed. Eric, let me ask your thoughts on this. I think we're going to have an insurrection of some sorts or a J6 repeat of some sorts, regardless of whether he wins or loses, because I don't believe that this group of individuals that think he lost the last election would believe that he lost this one if he does lose. And I think also if he does win, they're just going to run wild. They'll be emboldened. What are your thoughts?
I think it's possible. I have, like, I'm sure everyone on this on this panel has noticed that the narrative that came up after January 6th, the Fed narrative, is really just about being afraid. I think they don't want to go out there because they saw what happened. So especially my own like pop psychology theory everyone uses, like a lot of these people are men, right? Like men are usually way more like violent, unfortunately, and they don't, but they're afraid to say that. So now they've come up with this thing that everybody's an FBI agent. No, you're just scared to go back out there because everyone's going to jail. So I think it's possible, but more likely it's going to be these lone actors or lone wolves. You hear that phrase sometimes. I think that's the problem. Though I wouldn't rule it out, but I think it's unlikely.
Okay, good to know. All right, let's move on to the next Trump clip with more questions to follow.
Look, a lot of people think Gavin Newsom is going to run. In a certain way, I hope so. I hope so. Because he's destroyed California. He's destroyed it. But he's got a hell of a line of crap. I watched him on Sean Hannity, who's a good man, Sean. Sean, we love you very much, Sean, if you happen to be watching, which you will. But he was on Sean Hannity, and he was saying, no, California's never done better, we got to do this, we're doing that, we're doing that. I'm saying, wait a minute, the place is failing. They don't have water. They notified people in Beverly Hills you can only use 40 gallons of water. They don't have water. By the way, they could have so much water. I had it all set. All of the federal government approvals were done. All he had to do is sign a little piece of paper. And I won't let him get away with that again, because he had to sign one piece of paper and water would be pouring down from up north, pouring down from Canada. And it comes down the artificial veins and the natural veins where the water poured down. They take this water and they send it out to the Pacific, way above California. They send the water out to the Pacific to protect a little tiny fish that's not doing too well anyway. And people don't have water, and the farmland is barren. You go down, it's best land there is in the whole country. They can't farm it because they have no water. And it's true. In Beverly Hills, you pay a fortune in taxes. They say you can only brush your teeth once a day. Who the hell wants to mean you can't use too much water on your hair? That would put me out. I would not want to be. They put restrictors on showers. They put restrictors on faucets. You buy brand new faucets. Aren't they beautiful, darling? Oh, yes, look at them. Beautiful brass faucets. They're so beautiful. Let's try them. Oh, shit, no water's coming out. Drop. It drops out. You turn on the shower. I'm going to take a shower tonight. My hair's going to look better than it ever looked. I get that whole deal ready. I'm all set to go. Turn on the shower. Ding. Ding. No. And they have so much water. I said to some of our great congressmen that asked me to help them with a problem up in that area, up north in California, I said, I see you have a drought. They said, no, we don't have a drought. We have so much water, you don't know what to do. But they send it out to the Pacific. We're not going to let them get away with that any longer. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And frankly, I believe, I gave a speech up there. We had like 100,000 people show up. I said, what the hell is going on over here? I always hear Republicans can't win. California, you can't win. I will tell you, if God came down and God was the vote checker, I believe we would win California. I think it's so crazy. They send out 36 million ballots, get sent out to people unknown. They're sent out all over the place. How many people from California know people that got 6, 7, 8 ballots, okay? Our elections are so corrupt. I think we'd do very well. I think I would do very well in California, actually. And I think I would do well in a lot of places because it's common sense. Remember, not conservative. It's common sense. I'm conservative. But the words are common sense. Our country is run by people that are destroying it. We're not going to let it happen again. We're going to have a great military. We're going to have a great, everything in our country is going to function properly again. It's going to function well. We're going to be respected all over the world. We're going to be respected like we've never been respected before. And it won't take long. It's like Orban said from Hungary, put Trump back in and the whole world is going to be fixed. He said that very.
Okay, enough of that. As a Californian, I'm here to say that Trump is completely deranged. Like, as if this is news to anybody on this panel. At no point was Beverly Hills ever subjected to those sort of restrictions. Obviously, we live in a drought environment, so we voluntarily try to, conserve water. But all of this is just bullshit. Also, of course, he repeats the continued talking points about losing the election. We know that's not true. Amanda, what are your thoughts on this?
Those are some of my favorite Trumps. So my favorite Trump moment in history is when he was in Michigan and he was in front of all those people and he said, sinks, showers, and you know what else, folks? And the whole crowd went, toilets. And I love that he talks about water restriction because he sounds absolutely unhinged, but he's so passionate about it. He's so alive in those moments. And he's just screaming about flushing and brushing your teeth once a day. And it's crazy. Like any other country would be like, oh no, we can't do this. But he's just been doing it for like 10 years. And it's unreal. So you can tell the life is in him in the way it was in another clip because he's talking about the water. And they take the water and they put it in the ocean. I mean, it's just, I can't even, if you listen to that and you're like, that's the guy, I don't know what to tell you. If you ever yelled toilets back at some geriatric, on a stage, like that's, I don't know, man. It's beyond, I can't help you.
I feel that.
$300 to do it, by the way. And getting there at like 6 a.m. due to be through security at 10 a.m.
Right. It's crazy. Zach, let me ask you this. So there's a lot of people that have sort of been putting out this idea that Newsom is running some sort of shadow campaign in case Biden ends up not being the nominee for the Democratic Party. Yeah. You saw Trump take a few pot shots at Newsom. And I think that's what a lot of this California rhetoric's about. He thinks, I'm going to win California. Trump, there's no world in which you'll ever win California. A ham sandwich would win over you in California. We all know this. But what do you think about that Newsom angle?
I mean, there was an entire panel that just ran out conspiracy theories on who's actually going to be the nominee. Like all that it was 25 minutes or 30 minutes. It seemed like it went on longer, where there was just like, oh, it might be Michelle, or maybe it'll be Hillary. Oh, maybe it'll be Hillary. Maybe it'll be, I'm trying to remember who else. Oh, yeah, Newsom. But there was a couple other people that they ran through.
Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan.
What's that?
Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan. I think
oh yeah. They love that. And I mean, never mind, legally how they didn't know how like legally the whole primary system works. That if Biden dies after they get to the number of the correct amount of states or whatever, they had no idea. But they're just running through, and it was all just a lead up to an opportunity to make a joke that their favorite thing to do, which is joke that Michelle Obama is actually a man. So like they were like, oh, it's a black woman. So we oh, well, is it a black woman? And that's like, I was just waiting. It literally took 15 minutes for them to get to that. I'm just like, okay, when are we going to do this? This is an Alex Jones joke from like 10 years ago, but like, I guess we can, or 15 years ago, I guess we can do this. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know a single person who likes Gavin Newsom, including most Californians.
Right.
I mean, he wins because he's that guy.
Because he's the Democrat. That's why.
It's just like you put up, if Arnold Schwarzenegger ran as a Democrat, he would win,
I agree.
Yeah. And so it's going to be definitely interesting whether either candidate passes away or has some sort of health issue, because we're definitely in that potential range. Right. Because I don't even know legally what actually is supposed to happen. I mean, that's the whole reason why Nikki Haley is sticking in the race. I mean, come on, that and she's grifting money like all, right. No chance candidate. Dean Phillips is still in there too. And those are the options. And, I mean, don't even want to.
Those are the options.
Yeah.
All right. I have one more Trump clip I want to play before we move on to the next topic. This particular Trump clip is about granting immunity to law enforcement. Let's play this. I want your actions on this.
A vote for Trump is your ticket back to freedom. It's your passport out of tyranny, and it's your only escape from Joe Biden and his gang's fast track to hell. And in many ways, we're living in hell right now. Because the fact is, Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. He really is a threat to democracy.
That's actually a different clip than I thought it would be. But let's talk about this. So this is more projection, I think, on Trump's behalf. Joe Biden is the threat to democracy, not me that wants to be dictator for a day, right? Again, we see the same things as we saw. Colin, is there one more clip that I put in the folder?
When you see these department stores where 300, 400, usually kids walk in there with the masks on and rob the store, destroy the store, millions of dollars, then the store closes, the whole thing starts to collapse, the city. I could solve that problem in one day, in 1 hour, in 1 minute. When the word got out that we took a very tough action, when kids walk out with television sets, like brand new, beautiful $2,000 television sets, and they're walking out, and the police are told, stand down, don't do anything. If the police would be allowed to do their job, and they would do it really strongly, it would end. That whole phenomena would end immediately. It would never happen again. You don't even have to do it in every city. All you have to do is do it in one. That's why I'm giving immunity to police, so that they stop crime, because they don't want to get sued. They don't want to lose their wife, their family, their pension, their house.
All right, number one, qualified immunity already exists. They already have qualified immunity, so I don't know why he thinks he's going to give them anything. But I want to talk more about I know, Amanda, I love your face right now. I want to talk more about the fact that he's talking about these massive crime waves that are just not happening. Crime is actually down in the country, but this has constantly been this sort of fear-driven rhetoric that we see coming from the GOP, and we have for decades now. But this is kind of taking it to the next level. Amanda, because you're making that face that I love, what are your thoughts on this?
Maybe he's thinking he's still living in the year when television was $2,000 and department stores existed. So that would explain a lot. The early 2000s, maybe there was more crime. I mean, it's just, cops are never killing people in the streets because they'll lose their wives.
Right.
Their wives will leave them. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Wives, not lives. Wives.
Wives.
Very completely unattached from reality. The cops can kill you. It doesn't matter. They do whatever they want. And then maybe 15 years later, your family will get a couple $100,000. What is this guy talking about? And does he not realize it's the employees of the store who aren't supposed to chase after you? The cops can chase you. You work at Sephora. You're not going to risk your life. What? What has happened? Just nonsense.
I don't know. It is nonsense. Qualified immunity is one thing that a lot of the Reform the Police movement is looking at, right? So currently they can do all of these things and they aren't necessarily held liable. It depends from state to state. But for him to say that he's going to grant them all immunity is kind of ridiculous. Eric or Zach, do you guys have thoughts on this? I hear Zach laughing.
I'll let Zach take this one.
Oh, I mean, I'm currently suing the city of Rochester for police police violence against journalists and protesters. So I might be biased about this stance, but it's. I mean, I'm not quite sure what level. Biden didn't do anything after George Floyd. After all those protests, it's only got the police forces have only gotten more money and more ability, and no one cares. I mean, obviously people care, but no one is marching, in hundreds of thousands in the streets of cities when police are killing people. And so it's just it's just wild that we're just making up this thing. Never mind.
Right.
I was trying to figure out, I was just in Costco the other day, how many people you'd need to steal it to carry out a $2,000 TV, because that's a 75-inch plasma now. And so I'm just picturing this one guy awkwardly trying to run, but it's acting as a sail because it's so large, and so he's getting blown over anyway. But
it's a fear, right? It's fear motivation.
It's also a bit. I mean, they love the entire Republican Party's platform is own the libs. And whatever the libs are supposedly are for, which supposedly, according to the Republican Party, libs are for crime, mass shoplifting, crime waves. They're perfectly fine with it. So that's something we're just going to make up whole hog. Never mind the numbers. Even out of San Francisco, the numbers are completely made up on how it is. It's the National Retail Association basically making up these numbers so that they can basically other companies can do security things to make money. It's so sad that everything just comes down to who's doing the grift. That's all it is. It's like there's a bunch of security places that like want to do it. They want to close down stores and they want to fire employees. And so these are justifications to do that. They want to have they're going to blame shoplifting on the cashierless checkouts so that they can not hire people. I mean, it's just all like ridiculous how it just comes down to the grift. Who's making the money from it? But
yeah, indeed. All right. So I want to shift gears for a second. I want to talk about Tulsi Gabbard because my God, the arc on Tulsi Gabbard is now complete, I think. I want to play this clip, but there have legitimately been people in the GOP floating this idea that Tulsi Gabbard would become Trump's VP. I can see it. Let me play this first clip.
When we take a step back and look beyond the personalities, look beyond Donald Trump and Joe Biden, what we're facing is a threat of far greater magnitude. A very dangerous precedent is being set. Our democratic republic is being destroyed by the permanent Washington elite, and there are people in both political parties who truly believe they and not the American people have the right to decide who should be our president. They easily and dangerously dismiss our Constitution, the rule of law, the voices of the American people, anointing themselves as the ones who have the power and justification to make this most important decision. Now, I've only mentioned a few of the many examples. I could write a whole book detailing all that's been done, all that the Democrat elite and Washington establishment have done and are doing to try to destroy Donald Trump and steal our election. As you know very well, President Trump has endured years of attacks. What we're seeing now is a continuation of something that began in 2016, ever since he came down that golden escalator. Now, I've met a lot of strong, tough people in my life. I can't think of a single one who could not only withstand all that they are throwing at Donald Trump without crumbling, but someone who would actually choose to keep fighting against the entire Washington establishment.
So this is wild to me. This is, I mean, there's been a whole arc here with Tulsi. We don't have to get deep into that, but she's now absolutely acting as if, the election was stolen from Donald Trump, that he actually lost the election when we know that's not true. And making him out to be the victim. Wildly, this is a person that had legitimate criticism of some of the things the DNC did back in 2015. And now she's like on, I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard? Let's start with Anarchy Princess on this one.
I mean,
if you have thoughts.
what happened to her? She just woke up one day and went from endorsing Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden to being the VP for Trump. I mean, I get it. I don't get that, but as far as being, a Democrat or being a leftist, not everyone is full-blown Biden, okay? So there are a lot of people that don't appreciate everything that he's doing, but I can think of maybe only one other person that's advocating for Trump. That is some crazy stuff. So I don't know. She doesn't speak for us. It's a little bit scary that people are just flip-flopping like that. But yeah, I don't know much about her. I know she's in the Army Reserves, and she tried to run for president a few times. So I don't know. Maybe she's like Laura Logan or whatever.
I feel like she's drifting that direction. I actually have interviewed her a couple of times in the past when she was running for president, and she was not this person, let's put it to you that way. And she did have legitimate concerns over regime change wars, which was really popular with the anti-war crowd in the Democratic Party. But man, this is I'm like, okay. Eric, Zach, what are your thoughts here? Do you think this is a grift? It's been sort of put forth that maybe Tulsi is getting money. Now she's, been working for Fox News of all places, getting paid on that. And sometimes people get on this right-wing grift and they start making money and they're like, they don't care about, necessarily dumping any sort of belief system that they once held.
Yeah. Zach, did you want to weigh in on that? I mean, I have a very predictable
thought. She's I actually think that she's always been like this, and that she was in Hawaii, and you can't run as a Republican in Hawaii, and so she ran as a Democrat. She was pushed up by her beach cult that she grew up in, that has incredible right-wing and I would say, use her words, anti-woke cultural ideas. And then once she got to prominence, that she knew that she kind of hit the peak. She's never going to be senator there, because enough people know, I think. And so she hit her peak, and then she shifted over to the Republican Party. I mean, it's the grift drift of that continually happens with all of these people, where I just need attention and whatever. And, CPAC was basically, you had either the old guard kind of like doing their own panels and talking stuff, or it was basically just a public interview for vice president, or, head of EPA or whatever. That's what all this was. That's what her speech is that she's looking for some sort of position in the Trump, potential Trump White House. So it's sad. But
well, so Amanda, let me ask you this. Tulsi Gabbard does have a past that includes supporting Modi, who is absolutely a fascist in India. She at one time had anti-gay thoughts, and then she apologized for them. So there was a time in her past where she might have been more of a right-winger, and then she kind of decided that she was going to be woke, and now she's anti-woke, to use her rhetoric, because that is what she's using. Zach's right. Amanda, do you have thoughts on that?
I mean, in 2015, John Hagee, who said that Hitler was sent from God to help create Israel because he believes, in a literal interpretation of the Book of Revelation, introduced Tulsi Gabbard on stage at Kufi at Christians United for Israel as one of the good ones, a Democrat, but one of the good ones. And then Tulsi Gabbard gave a keynote speech at 2015 Christians United for Israel. So that's all I need to offer. That is about as right-wing as you can get. And
no, I agree.
There. Yeah.
I agree. I'd actually asked her about Israel-Palestine about 4 or 5 years ago, and she didn't have a very well-developed response. I'll leave it at that. So that doesn't surprise me. I have one more clip to play of hers before we move on to the white nationalists. Let's play that clip.
Aloha. It's wonderful to see you all here again at such a critical time. Our democracy is under attack. The perpetrators of this attack are those who, in the name of saving our democracy, are destroying it. I don't use these words lightly. Every one of us who loves this country and who cherishes peace and freedom should be very alarmed by those who, driven by their insatiable hunger for power, are actively undermining all that we stand for. And almost every single day, if you're paying attention to the news and the headlines, there is some new assault and some new attack. Now, it's the Democrat elite and the swamp creatures in Washington who are doing all that they possibly can to keep us, the American people, from a very simple thing, having the freedom to choose who we want to be our next president. And it is clear through their actions they have no respect for us, and they have no respect for our rights as citizens of this democratic republic. They are so terrified that we may make what they think is the wrong choice, that in the name of protecting democracy and saving us from ourselves, they're actually destroying our democracy and taking away our freedom.
So right off the top, she's using the same rhetoric that Trump used about draining the swamp, right? But, here's the thing, Tulsi. Trump is part of the swamp. He did not drain the swamp. He made the swamp actually swampier. That's just a fact of the matter. But this is someone who is now, for some reason I don't understand, not applying the same criticisms that she once had for the DNC to the RNC. So, some part of her criticisms previously was that they had lobbyists inside the party platform itself, super delegates that were lobbyists that had votes on what they did or did not do, which is factually true. And it should not be that way. If part of your party platform is that you're against or that you want to do something about climate change, and the first person that speaks out about it at your DNC convention is an actual fossil fuel lobbyist, there's a problem there, right? That's legitimate criticism and it should be made. But she doesn't seem to be applying the same sort of criticism at this point to the RNC. She's sort of holding them up as some sort of standard bearer for cleaning up the shit, which is just ridiculous. Who wants to take that one?
She's a grifter, right? I mean,
yeah.
This when people become stars. I mean, that's like I've seen this. I was just thinking about this before when I was watching those clips. Besides the fact that she's vaguely like a Star Wars villain now, like it's just like the whole CPAC thing. That's what it feels like. It's just like literally a speech from the Empire. But
yeah.
like. And I mean, it is funny. Like it is funny. We're in a really like dangerous place right now, and it's sad. Like I try not to, as I'm sure the rest of the people on this panel do, I try not to think about it, but it is absolutely debilitating sometimes mentally when I see stuff like that, and it's tough. I mean, we're in bad shape right now, so. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. I feel you.
I actually thought when the clip kind of stuttered, and I thought that you were cutting it and just showing us that when she started speaking, they put the book sale up, because I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. Like,
no, we didn't cut it. We didn't cut it. That was
no? Yeah.
That is how she had it uploaded to her YouTube. I wasn't sure if that was because it was a bad live stream connection or if they did that. I don't know. It was weird. I agree.
She was the only one, the only person that I saw that walked out to a image of her book on the digital display.
There you go.
Like I didn't see anybody else. Like Trump didn't. Trump didn't have a special thing along the side. So I'm very curious on like what she obviously had to have some like the only way I'm showing up is if you sell my book, type of thing.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is a standard practice for presidential candidates. They come out with a book, they get a 6-figure book deal, and then, somehow fade away. So
or not. Or we wish.
Hey, I just read that Marianne Williamson is still has restarted her campaign. So
she wants to compete with Uncommitted.
Yeah.
Sorry. A bit of a zinger there. All right. Okay. So now I want to turn to white nationalists at CPAC. This is not anything new. They've been kind of showing up for a few years now. Then you had sort of the American First thing that kind of went along with them for a little while. But I want to put up, Amanda, your piece this week that came out in The Nation. I was banned from CPAC, but the extremists weren't. From the lobby, I watched neo-Nazis and other far-right figures waltz unimpeded into the conservative political action conference. And this is indeed true. And we'll go through some of that, but let me just read a little bit of this. National Harbor, Maryland, on February 23rd, the third day of the Conservative Political Action Conference, Ryan Sanchez, who had been kicked out of the U.S. Marine Corps for his involvement with white nationalists, sidled up to me at the Gaylord National Resort Hotel and Convention Center. After I'd been barred from CPAC the day prior, I had turned a table in the lobby into my temporary office. He had recognized me from my reporting, some of it under cover of the far-right movement. Sanchez had slick back hair and wore a black leather jacket, which he always does, over a black mock turtleneck. His friends buzzed around us while he talked to me. Eventually, he suggested getting a photo. I didn't want to cede ground, but neither did I want to be photographed with him. I put my head down, covered my face with my arms, and extended my middle finger in a gesture of resistance, which is great. I saw that photo. Leaning into me, Sanchez laid his left arm across my shoulders, made a duck face and a hang loose gesture. Once a photo had been captured, he threw up his arm in a Sig Heil to his guffawing friends. So I want to talk about Ryan Sanchez for just a moment. He's not somebody I generally talk about because he's been around, but he's a bit low key compared to some of his friends. He was involved early on here in California with the Rise Above movement. Robert Rundo, who is sort of the guy that started that and spawned all these active clubs that are growing, currently is back in prison. Long story there, but they are definitely 100% white nationalists. I know they like to say that they're not, but they are. Talk to me a little bit about your background with Ryan Sanchez, because this obviously didn't start here at CPAC.
No. So I spent a year undercover in the far right. So basically every Nazi that was the CPAC was maybe at most 2 people removed from somebody that I tricked when I was undercover. Ryan's just one. I didn't trick him, but a lot of his friends. And so last year at CPAC, the harassment started because the first time we had ever met in person. And ever since then, we've been having this, because in the time since last year at CPAC, I published also in The Nation a feature on my time undercover, and I doxed some of his friends. Very sad for them, but that's what happens when you're a Nazi. And and so there's more and more resentment. So now I'm very much like a D-list celebrity at CPAC. I'm pretty famous among the Nazi crew, and particularly with Ryan's friends.
That doesn't surprise me. They do like attention. Colin, there's a couple of photos that I want to throw up right now. These are taken actually from Telegram. One of these is from Ryan Sanchez's Telegram, and I think the other was from, I don't remember now. But I wanted to point out, so these, there's his crew right there. And the next one is Jared Taylor. So he was out. Jared Taylor was also there at one point. Jared Taylor, who we've talked about on the show before, he's American Renaissance, very much a white nationalist. I think he would give pushback on this idea that he's a Nazi because he doesn't go full blown on some areas. He just has this idea that, we're not superior. We just want our own country. They can be equal, but they can be equal somewhere else. I don't know that there's much of a difference between that and a neo-Nazi, but in his mind there is. And I think, is there one more photo? No. Okay. No more photos. All right. So tell us a little bit. Thank God. Tell us a little bit more about who else you saw there. Jared Taylor obviously I don't think he's been there in the past. If he has, I haven't seen him there. But what other white nationalists did you see?
I think Jared Taylor's been there. I don't think Jared Taylor got kicked out. I was there each day. I know because he wrote about me in his little Amarin write-up. Oh, so I was like, Jared, next year just get press credentials because I won't give them to me, but they'll probably give them to you. Yeah, who else was there? So a lot of the people, obviously in that photo, some of them I also knew. There's a guy named Valley Zoomer who you did not show, who is kind of infamous for pulling fun pranks, like going up to people while he's filming them and saying slurs at them and screaming slurs at them and harassing them. So that's really cool. So he was there. I
actually think he was there. I have a video from him.
Oh, he was there. I doxed him. He harassed me and then I doxed him.
Okay.
So his name's Kyle Ferreira. It's in The Nation. You can read about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Valley Zoomer was there. You've got Greg Conte, who's Richard Spencer's bodyguard and Unite the Right, and then Communism Kills. I don't know.
Greg Conte was there? That's wow.
Yeah, he's in that video with me. And Communism Kills. I don't know if she was in CPAC itself, but she was buzzing around all the parties in the lobby. I saw her a bunch. Not a fan of me either, I don't think. So yeah, there were just tons of them there.
That's crazy. I want to turn to Zach. You had some video of them that I want to play where they were talking about harassing Amanda. Let's play that clip. So that was when they were doing the Sig Heil over your head. And I think there's a second one where they were outside too, right?
Not as much as we were expecting. I mean, honestly, I got to give it. Maybe there's something to the leftist line that we need immigrants. We need these people from Latin America to do the jobs that Americans won't, because I don't see a lot of American leftists out here protesting. Even the American boomers are just like drinking their martinis in there. The Salvadorans, God bless them, they're bringing the content, they're bringing the drama. So, I think this is like part of the tapestry of our multicultural society. We get to have protesters from South America. We get to have them bring in their inflatable rat. It kind of reminds me of when they had the inflatable Trump baby, a few years ago. So I don't know. It's I'm loving the diversity. I get to practice my Spanish a little bit.
Are you actually out here specifically supporting him, or is it just kind of a coincidence? These guys
we just heard there's counter protesters. We thought it was going to be Americans. We were going to, we already ejected all the leftists from CPAC, so we were going to go on a little side quest. But it turns out it's just Salvadorans. So.
You ejected leftists from CPAC?
No, we didn't.
So, CPAC did.
Some people did something. But, I don't know. The leftists, they have less than 1 year. Once January 6, 2025, it's over. So enjoy while it lasts, Vishal. I'm a big fan.
We love you, Vishal.
Yeah, we love you, Vishal. Hope you're doing well. But what? Nikki Haley.
Of course, they had to bring up Vishal as well, who is a LA-based journalist here, who I know. So I think your reference there is to you, Amanda, getting you kicked out. Eric, did they say anything else to you offline?
You said that they say anything to me personally?
I'm sorry, Zach. My bad.
I do have some I want to say about
Okay.
these people, but I'll let Zach take that.
Oh, that was basically everything else in that the interview that happened later was just basically them kind of like talking their random Nazi stuff. It was at they were on the side of the counter protest to a protest of the president of El Salvador.
Right. We're going to talk about that next. So
yeah. And so like that's basically, they kind of talked about that a little bit. They were their usual. I know what they say, and so like I actually stopped. That's the full clip.
That's the full thing. Eric, what are your thoughts?
I was gonna say, first I was gonna commend Amanda for like, it's a great piece, and also just like that's. I mean, I'm not gonna, obviously I don't want to speak for you, but that's scary. That's scary for me sometimes to be surrounded. But yeah, no, you.
I'm more mad about Ben Goggin than I am about. I mean, the Nazis don't bother me. I don't really care.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, thank you.
Eric, were you done? I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, there you go. I lost a few people for a second. The other thing I was going to say was it's interesting. I never told anybody this, but Ryan. So because I don't, you don't like to promote these people, but so he was the unnamed neo-Nazi in that piece I wrote for Rolling Stone about the one that came up to me at that rally.
Yes.
It's interesting in terms of how these guys have no respect for women and how they are so abusive. Look how they acted towards Amanda, and with Zach, he acted differently. And when that instant with me, he literally took my picture and ran. He ran across the street. So I just think that's notable.
No, I do. The way these guys handle women and men is very much different. I can attest to that as a female journalist that's covered these guys. Right. Absolutely. They can be violent.
Ryan Sanchez was live streaming down here, wasn't he, Amanda?
Yes.
Like Chinatown, yeah.
Yeah, he was like hassling unhoused people, apparently.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I mean, he harasses women and people that are sleeping on the sidewalk, with not so much as a blanket, but he's afraid of men or, whatever. He runs across the street. So
very brave individual.
Very brave.
Yeah.
Anarchy Princess, what are your thoughts on that? He was down at the Chinatown thing.
I mean, I didn't even know of Ryan Sanchez, but so I was at the courthouse, which is just, well, you can't see, but it's over there. It's the opposite way. It's like kind of right across the street, and you can't have your phones on or whatever. But as I came out and I turned my phone on, a few people were like, Ryan Sanchez is live in DC. And before I got outside, he was making his way down here, but he literally was like at the statue over here, like 2 minutes before me, but I had heels on. And by the time I came around the corner, he was like a block down. I wasn't going to run after him and, talk junk to him. But that was the first time I knew of him. And then he showed up at CPAC, and he had that same stupid Nazi Groiper outfit thing that he had going on. And I mean, I wanted to say this earlier when Trump was talking about the crime stuff. Okay. So these people were in Chinatown, and Chinatown's like not one of the best areas. So I was really hoping that DC would have just handled that for us, right? Like these guys think they're so tough and so cool, just walking through Chinatown messing with people. But alas, I guess the crime isn't that bad like Trump says, so they survived.
Exactly. Zach, did you have something or?
Nothing. Other than I do if there's anything one can the drill tweet, you don't have to give it to them. But the fact their commitment to the bit, that the fact that like all the boys there were all in their like 30s, like they look like Indiana Jones, like Nazi rejects.
Not in their 30s. They're so much younger than that.
No, 1930s.
Really?
Oh,
no, it's saying that like a 1930s Nazi.
The outfit.
No, that's why I call them boys. They're children. Like they're playing Nazi games, and hopefully maybe they find out.
They're trying to look like the archaeologists that Hitler sent out to find all of these artifacts.
The coin. Yeah, there's a couple in that kind of like that crew that actually go full, that have even more like that have like the round glasses and stuff like that. It's kind of like. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Amanda, what else? You were bringing out something else that bothered you more. What was that?
Oh, it was Ben Goggin. Okay, so first of all, I want to like back up this Ryan Sanchez thing, because I want to explain kind of that clip a little bit more than what Ben Goggin has co-opted the whole thing and taken it for himself. So they were with me for like 45 minutes before that clip, and they were with me again the next day, and they realized that the like on-camera harassment doesn't work. So now they just sit and chill with me and talk with me. So really that's the only time that anybody crossed the line, because last year they stood around me and called me a slut and recorded it for a live stream for 6 minutes, and like the physical intimidation just does not work with me. Right. So now they mostly try to convince me to have white babies or say the 14 words or stuff like that. So that moment is really the only moment where one could say a line is crossed if one ignores Nazi sitting at a table with you. So there's actually a guy in Zach's clip. His name is Chris. He's like behind. I don't know. You see him at some point. He's like some Australian, like far right guy, and he had recorded that clip of the salute, and he posted it and tagged me in it because we met several times. So I followed him on Twitter, and I shared it with people because, I'm tagged in it. It's somebody else's clip. Not much I can really do about it. But it's a pretty, I think it's a pretty powerful clip, especially when it's taken in full context. And this guy, Ben Goggin from NBC, who I talked to briefly, he screen recorded it and then started pumping it as his own story. No credit to me. Also, no mentioning that it's not some Nazi girl or some CPAC attendee in that clip. It's actually a journalist that's being harassed and targeted specifically because of her coverage of the Nazis.
Wait, he screen recorded? That's copyright infringement for starters, let alone not being obviously omitting the circumstances is also very bad.
Yeah, I thought about telling Chris to DMCA it, then I posted it too. But I think it's fine with Chris.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. It's not my clip. I can't, some guy in Australia.
Oh, whose clip is it? I thought
this like kind of like far right guy in Australia.
Oh, he's the one. I understand now. So he was the one that shot the clip.
I obviously did not record it. I was busy.
I got you. With the I thought maybe Zach had originally.
Oh yeah, no. Nobody was there. It was just me.
Okay.
Yeah, because people were like out. I think they were inside. People just don't whatever. Yeah, so Ben Goggin from NBC has been doing this, completely omitting. And when I finally called him out on it, I was supposed to go on Jake Tapper's show, and then I got bumped because of SCOTUS. And I was like, well, they did my hair and makeup. I look nice. So I made a TikTok about it, then got drunk and started tweeting about it. And tagging Ben in it. I woke up the next morning, and Ben was real mad with me. But, I'm right. Like, not only did he not cite me, like, even a hat tip, this is where I got this clip from. Right. But also, he changed the story. He's like, he says I'm an influencer and content creator. So I'm a premier anti-Nazi influencer and content creator, guys. I'm not a journalist, and so it doesn't need to be part of the story that Nazis are harassing a female journalist who writes about them. Ben Goggin, by the way, has never written about Nazis, so.
Okay, wow, I'm speechless. Eric, do you have thoughts on that as a journalist?
I mean, It's this job is. I've been occupied with some personal stuff, so I apologize for not. I saw a little bit about what happened, and I just my main point would be this job is hard enough.
Yeah.
Without what I'm hearing Amanda say. So yeah, I mean, we're all trying to make a better world, right?
I agree. It wouldn't be the first time a staff writer did something like that with a freelancer. That we all know this happens. I mean, Vice News on the regular apparently takes pitches and turns them into tips, which is completely unethical. But this is something that happens, and these guys that are staff writers at these major publications should have more respect for freelancers and the work they do, because 9 times out of 10, they're not there doing the work that we're doing, right? Filming the stuff. They want the footage because they need to make their stories, but they're not out there filming it, right? So that's really disappointing to hear that. That's not great.
Well, I don't even care about that. Honestly, I don't care about the hat tip. What I care about is that it's an election year, and I'm somebody who actually covers Nazis. And I'm actually somebody who gets physically harassed by Nazis everywhere I go. As AP can testify, I've picked up a violent, deranged, aspiring school shooter stalker from another person harassing me on video in Eagle Pass in Texas. And, shoving cameras in my face. I go all these places alone, and it is dangerous, and it doesn't bother me, but it doesn't make it okay. And it doesn't make it less dangerous. Right. And I care. Ben Goggin has so little respect for women and so little respect for journalists that don't work at NBC that he could not be bothered to say someone who is braver than I am, because I am a coward, is a journalist sitting right there, and the people she writes about are harassing her. He completely changed the narrative story because he knew if he said that, he wouldn't be the center of it anymore. Oof. That's that. So I don't care about the credit. I care about the story.
No, that's fair. That's that's not an okay thing. All right. Is there anything we've left out here on the white nationalist thing? I think we hit it all.
I mean, the one note beyond the like card carrying Nazis that are wandering around, and there were white nationalists on stage. Jack Posobiec was on stage. He gave a speech. They talked regularly about. Yeah. I mean, first off, the name of the convention was "Where Globalism Goes to Die," which is globalism has basically become the code word for Soros and
Jewish
Jews.
people. Yeah, I agree.
And so, like, the fact that like people like Matt Schlapp are going around and trying to claim it's like, well, I support Israel, so I can't possibly be anti-Semitic and I can't possibly support the Nazis, is just wild. That is a choice to have globalism and like where it goes to die above, and as the former president of the United States walks out, that's a choice. And having a Pizzagate conspiracy theorist be one of the people that speak before the president, Poso, and yeah,
I have a clip of his, by the way.
Among other people that were on there. I mean, just the anti-immigrant, vile racism that just poured out of almost every other panels, because right now it's not trans people. I mean, thank goodness, is the focus. It was this entire time. The border is the only thing. And it is people crossing the border, combined with trans people, that are going to end Western civilization, according to this convention. That was like the drum beat every single time. I give credit to my trans friends that they're able to do what no one else has been able to do, which is end Western civilization. But
no, right?
The Huns would be quite jealous.
Did you catch any of Sebastian Gorka on stage?
Oh yeah.
What was he saying?
I mean, it's his standard. I mean, what was very interesting, and I noted in my Bucks County Beacon article, was that the number of people that CPAC shared with the Rod of Iron Gun Cult Festival was basically 100%. Basically, all the main speakers that were at this past year's
that's interesting.
Rod of Iron was there. Alan Gottlieb, who is weirdly a family friend. And long story, and also Jack Posobiec and Gorka is funded almost wholly by the Mooney gun cult in Pennsylvania that I've been on this show before talking about, that, you know, worships the AR-15 and Trump. And so, like, the fact that the Venn diagram of those two conventions is wild, and basically
is a circle.
Like, yeah. And so this idea that like, I mean, this is like actually one of the reasons I'm like, yeah, I'm not really surprised. I mean, like, what, that Nazis are there. I mean, the mainstream people, it'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to Netroots Nation and Rachel Maddow's on stage and whatever, you know, I mean, like, it'd be like not shocking, you know, at all. Like, this is the crew that they hang out with. I mean, Gorka is a noted, you know, person who at least it has connections to Nazi groups in Eastern Europe. And Hungary, you know, I mean, I'm shocked by people being shocked. Like, there's gambling in this, because I can't believe that there's gambling in this casino.
I can't either. I want to play real quick before we move on to the funny, crazy, weird stuff that happened. The clip of the El Salvadorian president who was here speaking, who is, what does he call himself? The kindest, warmest dictator, the coolest dictator. Yeah, let's play that clip.
They don't have a democratic mandate. If they want a seat in the table, they should run for office. Let the people vote. It will not be a pretty sight for them if the elections are free and fair. I mean, who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws? Why does he feel entitled to impose his agenda? Let me tell you something. Soros and his cronies hit a brick wall in El Salvador. Thank God, and all the glory be to him, Salvadorans are now immune to his influence. No one believes his lies anymore over there.
Okay, so this is kind of a wild guest to have at CPAC, but it fits right in with the theme of fascism. So folks that don't know who he is, he basically, I mean, he's a fascist. He came in with the army, you know, and in fact, I believe when he first entered the legislative body, he brought the army with him. They have elections. I don't know how fair and free they are at this point, but I mean, he even calls himself a dictator. I don't think this is a crazy statement. So it's wild that they have this foreign guy talking about how Trump lost the election and that if there was election fraud, like this was just a wild sort of weird thing. What are your thoughts on that? First with Zach.
I mean, I mean, they have all of the favorites. Nigel Farage is a regular there who brought, you know, Brexit upon Britain, and who is at minimum anti-immigrant person. Has so many white nationalist ties in Britain that it's hard to not call him a white nationalist. Then you had the president of Argentina speak and give one of the oddest speeches I've ever heard at a convention, because it was a libertarian academic study where he gave examples. He cited Keynes. I mean, like, it was just like, you could just see the words go over, because they were also obviously translated. So you had to like do this time. And it went on for like an hour and a half.
That's wild.
And they just gave him no time. They didn't put any time. And then, because I'm in the bubble taking photos of him, and we're all looking at each other going, but it's an interesting comparison between the two, is that usually you have, if you have other countries, you know, right-wing figures come to CPAC, they hit the Soros, they hit all the globalists, they hit all the big things of those things. The Argentinian president did not do any of those. He never mentioned Soros in his speech, at least that I caught. He talked about like monopolies being great, and that, like, you know, having a right to your body was basically like an Ayn Rand speech. But it was the comparison of the two, because like they know, I mean, like the guys that know to hit, you got to hit the Soros, you got to hit the thing, because at least they know that Bolsonaro did that last year, and his son did that this year as well.
Bolsonaro's son was there. Okay.
Oh yeah. He spoke right after Trump, I believe. Like literally, Trump left the stage and Bolsonaro came out with Eduardo, I think it is, came out with his iPad and gave a speech where no one listened to him because everyone was talking and leaving because Trump left. So it was I actually felt like a little bit bad for him because it was like the poor guy, he spoke in English too. So like, it was he literally hit this for the audience and no one cared.
Oh,
like
poor
all
kid.
ran out because they had a file and everybody else started filling out. It was so sad.
It is wild. I mean, one of the things that that he's been sort of good on, as far as people I've talked to in El Salvador have to say, is that he's ended the crime and the gangs. But my thing is that, but look how he went about doing that. He did it with military force, and now he's
he had the trains go on time. So that's just something.
I mean, but it's kind of wild that that's where we're at. Like, that's your bar. You don't want your civil liberties back. You don't want to be able to be part of a democracy. Like, I don't know. Amanda, do you have thoughts on that?
I mean, it's very interesting how many foreign CPACs there are, how many leaders from other countries there are, and how it's just completely normal now to be like, I want to model after Bolsonaro, I want to model after Hungary. Fidesz has the right model. I hear a lot of the people that I write about, they love Bolsonaro and Jr. as well, and they're all about it. And it's crazy because a lot of them are former libertarians who kind of took that right shift, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Well, that makes sense.
You know
what? I had forgotten about that. So, he had made Bitcoin, I believe, the actual currency for El Salvador, which is sort of an anarcho-capitalist thing, right? So if he's an extreme right-wing libertarian, that sort of fits into that. Interesting. All right. So it's getting dark there for Anarchy Princess. She's in the dark. We need to put some light on her. Are you are you doing okay there?
Yeah, I can move. I just didn't want to move all this stuff around, but I
okay.
But I didn't want to interrupt. But
now we can say, all right. So I'm going to move up our Freedom Corner segment and then table the funny, crazy, weird stuff to the end, just because you're in the dark there, and I don't want you to be out there in the dark. You're welcome. All right.
Here. So there's Capitol Police everywhere, so I'm good.
Okay. All right. Colin,
get some light here. There we go.
Let's do some light. Oh, that's a little bit better. There we go. So while you're doing that, I want to play, Colin, the very first Freedom Corner clip that we were sent. I know I'm moving things around here. Let's give Colin a second. Or is it bad that we're moving them around, actually?
I just trying to. I numbered them, so I'm just trying to see which one.
Okay, so we are jumping ahead 1, 2, 3. So we're skipping 4 videos. So if you hit 5,
oh, it's right after the.
That might be a.
Excuse me, Matt. Oh, why is Nick Fuentes not allowed at the event? What are the? We need answers. Why is Nick Fuentes not allowed here? Oh, there he goes.
All right, it's the one after that.
Why? Where were you? Were you love you, Sebastian. Oh. We love you. I'm a big fan of you, Sebastian. Look at this guy. Did you see my hat? It's for your show. It's for your show.
Tell Nick Fuentes he's a short little sad man.
I'll tell you you're a fucking faggot. Oh, what are you doing, dude? I said you're a faggot. I said you're a faggot. What are you guys doing? What are you fucking doing?
I don't think those are the right set of videos, Colin, but do you guys want to talk about Sebastian Gorka for a
second?
I
timed it wrong. I'm sorry.
I mean, love him either way.
Yeah, so
the group that are outside from Freedom Corner later on that night. Sorry, guys.
You do, in fact, have to give it to Sebastian Gorka this time.
Yeah. Issuing a correction on a previous statement of mine.
Yes.
We can talk about Nick Fuentes being a short whatever. What he insulted Nick Fuentes. He did get kicked out last year.
He got in a fight with somebody last year at CPAC. Does anybody remember? I have the video where he got in a fist fight with someone.
Yeah. Do you know Corinne? Crazy Corinne Clifford?
Yeah.
She fancies herself a journalist. I don't really know. She's originally from California, but she's involved in everything MAGA. But she was right there next to Nick Fuentes. You know how he has like that cozy TV and
Is
all
she
of
the
that?
blonde girl?
Yeah.
Corinne
I do know. Okay, I know.
Corinne.
Yeah.
I didn't mean
Okay.
to
So she used to like stream with him. They did all that IP2, all of that stuff. So he's like a hero to her, except he thinks women can't vote. So she wants to be able to vote. But other than that, everything else he says is great, according to her. So as soon as Fuentes showed up last year, she was all like, "Oh my God!" And she followed him everywhere. So she got, as soon as he comes out the elevator and then just getting kicked out and all of that. So maybe I can send that to you. And
Yeah, I'd love to see that. That'd be wild.
Yeah.
Colin, are we good? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
He was calling people Jews and, insulting everyone.
Nick Fuentes is one of the worst. Yeah.
He called me a pig nose.
He called you.
He said I wear pink because I got a pig nose.
He talked about you a lot.
He talks about me a lot
He
lately.
doesn't care, right?
He's real bad at me.
Oh my God. Wait, which one of them said that you had an Aryan phenotype or some shit? I was like, what?
That's Ryan Sanchez.
That was Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, these guys are so crazy. They're so crazy. Colin, just play if you've got. Sorry, I don't know if he's got.
Insurrectionists! Get the fuck out of the city! You attacked our capital! There's actual January 6th right over there. There's actual people who attacked our capital right over there. Fuck you, insurrectionists!
I love her. I love her. To commish.
As her sirens going behind me. That's the commish. That's not me yelling. Yeah, she joined on Friday too when CPAC came. So it was fun because she's really loud. Sorry about the sirens, but she has her bullhorn and she's screaming and they get like I'm more like specific, I'm calling them out, where she's just, full blown screaming and all of that. So that really, really bothers them. Like they come unglued, they put their cameras right up to the phone.
So after CPAC ended, I know that Friday when Saturday when Trump was doing his speech, it was lower, but Friday night, was it a bigger crowd?
Yeah, Friday, a bunch of them showed up. Tina Peters was there.
Oh,
she had
okay.
been there a couple times. There's this J6er. His name is Jeffrey Sable, but they're both from Colorado, and they seem to have formed a connection. Maybe he sent her a letter. I don't know, but she was familiar with him, and he called out because that's what they do. So if anyone doesn't know what Freedom Corner is, before the J6ers go to prison, they're housed in the DC jail because they committed the crime in DC. They go to court in DC. They're federal inmates. There's a contract with this jail to hold federal inmates, all of that. Anyway, so Ashley Babbitt's mom has been holding this vigil 7 nights a week. A lot of people think it's just once a week. This is 7 nights a week. For August will be 2 years that they've been doing this. Mickey, Ashley's mom, had this dream after Ashley died, and Ashley would want her to be there with the political prisoners. So every night she stands behind the jail, waving her flags, playing music, whatever. But they take calls from the inmates, from the J6ers. So they are just, they're just telling it. They're talking about hanging Nancy Pelosi. They're incriminating themselves. They're being racist and homophobic. They're making threats. All of this is live streamed. There's not usually a big crowd there. They used to be bigger. Now they're about 5 to 10 a night. But they do stream it. Like everybody there is a streamer. That's all they do. And so it gets out to maybe a few thousand people. But they all believe that narrative, and then they spam Congress. Like they're like, call the number. Like this is an emergency, and they bother everyone with their frivolous political prisoner torture claims. But yeah, so I don't go down there every Friday. I used to go down there a lot more, and one, it got boring because it's the same stuff every night. But they have gotten so violent and so crazy, and they do that right next to the police. There's a ton of cops there every night, essentially protecting them from Big Bad Me or Big Bad Commish when we show up once in a while. But it's been really helpful because they make all these calls and they get in trouble in court because the prosecutors hear that, like
Right.
you can't say I'm remorseful and I'll never do it again, and then call out every night and say you want to do
Right.
it again. So,
Right. Yeah, they're not the sharpest tools in the shed.
They're not. The worst of the worst are down there. Like I was saying earlier, there's a difference in J6ers. There's, nobody's like great, right? But there's people that are like, oh my God, I don't want to go to jail. Like, I'm going to take the plea. I'm going to listen to my lawyer. I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to be good. I'm going to follow all my pretrial stuff, I'm not going to mess up. And then there's others that they don't care what happens to them. They don't care how many years they get. They're still going to fight this, and they're going to still think the election is fraud.
They believe the lies, and they're acting on that
Yeah.
belief, and they think they're just saving democracy in their minds. It's kind of crazy. I hear
Not at
that.
all.
Right.
Not at all. But
Let's
we
play the
show
next
up and
clip.
yell at them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
That's all right.
Comes down to that Star Spangled Banner. I'll always stand. I'll always stand. This one's for my guys behind the wall. When it came down to fighting, they was involved. People with millions and billions, they acting privileged. Nearly broke my heart when they saw the Maryland. You wanna hate me, but I don't hate you. Don't listen to the lies from the news. Hey, J6 was no mistake. You know it was planned by the deep state. When it comes down to that Star Spangled Banner, I'll always stand. I'll always stand. When it comes down to that Star Spangled Banner, I'll always.
So we have a musical
Oh my
performance.
Oh my God.
I need a trigger warning or something before that.
Yes, they're the worst rappers in America. Like,
wait, that's rap?
Well, usually he raps. I don't really
Okay.
know what to call that. But if you can't make it as a rapper, you just all of a sudden start singing about Trump, and you'll be number one on iTunes. So he's a performer, and that guy next to him with the hat on playing the guitar, he actually was involved in that pinball. That was the pinball machine.
We're gonna play that next. Okay.
Yeah. But the sirens in the back, that's just us yelling at them, trying to interrupt. It gets louder. Nobody wants to listen to them, and when they play that awful music, we're just like, go away.
All right, on. All right, I think we have one more clip or two more clips. Let's play those.
You have to go on this side. You don't have to commit.
Come on.
I'm not going anywhere, weirdos. But sir, you can't take my property. Sir, I'm married to a cop. You can't just take my property. I can stand right here.
Okay, what's going on there?
So like I said, they're out by the jail. Okay, they're in the back, and it's like a dead end street. It leads right down to the jail, and on the other side is the cemetery. And they have no permit. They've been doing this for almost 2 years, so they have occupied this one big stretch of sidewalk right there. And the cops will force counter protesters to go across the street on the other side. Well, I decided I was going to be up where they were, but up, like, not in their area. I was on the public sidewalk. Okay. And they were not up there. They were way down the hill, and they decided to intimidate me and move up towards me.
Okay.
And there was a point where they were about to walk around me, and I was like, oh, it's fine. They're going around me. And then they decided, because there was new people from CPAC who, wanted to get brave and show off. They were like, no, we're not going around. We're going this way. So they all wanted to just walk up towards me for no reason. They had no place to go. But as they started walking towards me, the cop was trying to move me, telling me I had to go. And I was like, they don't have a permit, and that's down there. This is a public sidewalk. And so there was some back and forth. I'm like, I don't have to move. And they just came over, grabbed my phone, and just moved me over. And this is an ongoing thing. Like earlier when Trump was talking about, so he was talking about 300 kids in department stores with masks. There is this crime uptick in DC, and a lot of it is juvenile. So when Trump said that earlier, I felt like he was talking about he wanted the cops to shoot kids. That's what it sounded like.
Okay.
But so not everyone in here in DC, but a lot of conservatives are like, oh, the Democrats defunded the police. Okay. And that's why.
Which didn't happen, by the way. Yeah.
It didn't, because the cops actually got their money, especially this year. They got all of their money. Okay. But Freedom Corner, every night, 7 days a week, there's anywhere from 4 to 10 cops at least there a night. There could be 5 chuds, as I call them, 5 protesters, 5 patriots, whatever you want to call them, with their live streams, and 10 cops. So there's more cops and more flags than those protesters. And meanwhile, the crime is like, there's been a shooting like every night for 3 nights in a row, pretty much, a couple blocks away from Freedom Corner. And so there's all these cops sitting there, excuse me, but half the time they're sleeping. Some of them are intoxicated. At least one of them is intoxicated frequently. You know, their uniforms are unbuttoned, their pants are unbuttoned, their shoes are off. They're just cooling it, sleeping in their cars. And all this crime is going on. So I have fought with them many, many times. They have detained me so many times, threatened me with arrest. So what you see right there is, I was like, okay, it's Friday night. You can. I'm not going to jail today, so I just let them move me over there. But the cops and them have some alliance, maybe. I'm not really sure, but they get away with whatever they want here. So
indeed. And I think we have one more clip, right? One more, or no? Oh, maybe not. Okay,
not from that part. No.
So
okay, all right. Thank you, Colin.
Out of that.
Please, no more music.
There's all right. I wanted to end with the music.
2 new rappers there. That's like your debut, right? Like you join what's his name? Forgito Blow. Have you seen him?
Yeah. They've been in California.
He was there. There. So the one you listen to is Ron J. Spike. So he's like a prodigy of Forgito Blow, whatever his name is. So when Forgito comes, he's like a celebrity, you know, so you got to perform when he's there. So they brought 2 other guys and they did sing rap. I'm not really sure what you call it. It was terrible, but
it is. They've been in California. I think Eric's probably heard them too.
I have to add because I have a great Forgiato or whatever his name is, Blow story. As I'm walking out, I'm getting a photo of Forgiato Blow, and at the same time, guess who walks by but RFK Jr., Vincent Fusca. And so they see each other and I'm just like, and they're like talking to each other. And I'm like, oh, can I get a photo of you guys together? So I have a photo. I have a photo of the most QAnon.
And why did
I have
you
to send it
me
over
that
to
photo?
QAnon Anonymous.
That is hilarious.
But and so then Vincent goes, who unfortunately I think knows me at this point because I'm always the person who goes, oh, hey, there's RFK. He gives me his cell phone. So I took the photo. If you see it posted on the internet, I took that photo of the 2 of them.
Okay, that's funny.
I'm just like, this is how 2024. This is how.
This is it. They're doing sneakers.
Horrible era ends with these 2 great.
They're going to be ambassadors in a year.
Yeah.
Forgiato Blow is going to play at the 2025 inaugural. That is my prediction right now.
He spent $15,000 trying to get his Instagram unsuspended. That's what he told Tom McKay last year at CPAC. He wrote it Rolling Stone.
Are you kidding me?
Tom McKay's 2023 CPAC article in Rolling Stone. You guys should read it because it's a lot about him, and he's like,
that's insane. 15K. Oof, not worth it.
That's vice president.
Number 1 on iTunes.
And that's just wild. Okay, so now let's talk about the weird ass shit, because this is some funny stuff here. First of all, the January 6th pinball machine. Are you kidding me with this?
Insurrection pinball game.
Insurrection pinball game. Okay, let's play this video first because this is just wild shit.
Everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
What inspired you to make a J6 insurrection pinball game?
All right, well, using the name insurrection is a bit tongue-in-cheek because I don't actually believe it was an insurrection, but I'm a software developer, I'm a game developer, and I wanted to, be able to sort of bring what I see as the truth of what actually happened on January 6th into the popular culture and try to move the needle from the far left a little bit towards the center to the right. And so I as a game developer, I thought I'd make a game about it and include the videos and actual quotes from Trump of what was really said. I decided to choose pinball as a platform for that. I could have, done it something else, but it's very accessible and I can bring it to events and things like that. So that was why experience. You really are playing through a game like any other game. So the modes in this game is Stop the Steal, Fake News, Peaceful Protest, It's a Setup, Babbitt Murder, Have Faith, and Political Prisoners. And then when you go into any one of those modes, we put up videos from the actual January 6th that I pulled down off the internet, some of them from left-leaning websites, but videos that relate to that particular topic in that mode. And then you just try to get high school.
Okay, let me just say now, Colin, we need to get on that to see if he stole our video, and then if he did, we're going after him for copyright infringement.
I immediately said because I took I took video of it early on, and I immediately sent it to my friend Ford Fisher, who has he has 12 different cameras from January 6th that he's either he took or has bought the footage. And I'm just is anything there? He's unfortunately not. I don't know how you do that copyright lawsuit though. We're suing a pinball machine. What's going on?
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that photo,
intellectual property.
The famous photo though of the QAnon shaman is on the thing, embedded in it. That actually is just. It was a little disappointing once you get close to it because it's not an actual pinball machine. It's a computer display. It's actually done really well because it does look like
it on the video.
Yeah, and the sounds are dead on and everything like that. Props to this guy that made this thing, but it is it was certainly interesting. Yeah.
Wild stuff.
The guy that made it was at Freedom Corner, and so I was making fun of them when I first arrived because as I come down the hill, I'm like, hey, and specifically calling everybody out. So they had said on someone's footage that they should bring it to Freedom Corner, bring the pinball machine. So I was asking where it was. And this guy had been staring at me for a few minutes and being really creepy. And then he was like, what did you say about the pinball machine? And I was like, oh, it's you. It's the pinball guy. So then he started filming me. And so I was like, it's really rude of you to put Ashley Babbitt's murder, dead Ashley Babbitt or whatever. I was like, you're standing right next to her mother. You're making fun of her death, right? So I, turned it around on him. But he was really mad that the hill and
I'm really curious. I'm curious, and I didn't think to I might next time I see Mickey, I'm gonna have to ask her what she thinks of her of Ashley being part of a pinball game now.
Yeah.
Well, I have very conflicted feelings about Mickey. I've watched her arc of basically going from a mom grieved who had all of these sensibilities. There is a reason, the connection between her daughter and her politics is intertwined. Right. But watching her arc go from kind of just an aggrieved mother who was her kid was killed by a police officer. We talk about this constantly, to what she is now, which is, she's a symbol of the worst of kind of the Jan 6 and, extremism world. And this kind of, she's, better than anybody else. God, she's said some vile things. She's gotten into fights. She's, and whatever, but
she's Mama Mickey.
Yeah.
It's a cult. All of these
it is a cult.
Yeah.
It kind of is a cult. You're not wrong. All right, let's get to the next clip. Speaking of.
Yeah.
That's them.
Again? They keep doing that.
They do it everywhere they go. They really, that was really important to them. So they spent, so Mickey got there however she got there, but who you hear screaming are the streamers, Sherry, and we call one the Beef. They're live streamers. They have funny nicknames, but they got their viewers to send them $300. So
to pay for the
yeah, because last year they went there and they started doing that in the hallway, and they got a big crowd to chant with them, and so it became, they called it J6 pack. I think a few people did. So that was Freedom Corner's mission. They had done it. They had just gone. Some of them went to the border convoy, and they wanted to push J6 on everyone. So every time there was a speech, they were free J6, Ashley Babbitt. So CPAC, they were on a mission to be chanting, and it's very culty, right? To just always chant.
And I've also noticed. Have you noticed that sometimes a lot of the other conservatives aren't on board with it? They kind of
not at all. They do every time. Like they're more accepted there at CPAC, but when they did that at the convoy, people were like,
"Oh yeah,
I was there," and it was not popular at the convoy.
It was not. Weird. They were all like side eyeing them. That's so funny.
Yeah.
All right, right on. All right, let's do the next clip. I believe it's Jack Posobiec, if I'm not mistaken. Posobiec. I never say his name right.
All right, welcome. I just wanted to say, welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here. We'll replace it with this right here.
Amen.
I mean, is he saying the quiet part out loud?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Steve Bannon, right? The one laughing and agreeing. So he's going to prison, and he was heavily involved with J6. So I mean, these people just admitted it, that they tried to overthrow democracy. Yep, here we are. Still, they're not walking.
I sometimes think that they think they're being ironic, but I also think there's a grain of truth to every time they're being ironic, right? It's just an excuse. If we say we're being ironic, we didn't actually mean it. But no, they do mean it. That's a tactic they use.
I don't think they understand irony. I don't think they're good at jokes. Honestly, they're pretty. I mean, they just like to brag about everything. Honestly, all of them.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Amanda or Eric, do you have any commentary on that?
No,
you don't have to.
Why is he so nervous?
Why is he so nervous?
No, Poso. He's like, this is the end of democracy. Like, spit it out, man. Come on.
He started giggly about it.
Well, he was really nervous when he went to Comet Ping Pong. Remember how nervous he was? He was like, I'm here. It's like, you are a baby. One time I met his wife and she just complained the whole time about having to be in Florida with him. She just wanted to go home.
The libs of TikTok thing at the library with that you were
I watched him. He read a book to me. He read a child's book to me.
He was reading children's books.
He was the most charming of all of the readers. It was him, Sean Spicer, Libs of TikTok, Kurt Cameron, and he was far away the most compelling reader of children's books.
I'm not sure what that says about him.
It's more about the other people than him. Right. They were all really bad. They were really bad, but he seemed mostly literate.
Yeah, he's
for the win.
Literate. Wow.
Go ahead, Eric. Sorry.
No, he's just the level of I've never received more death threats than when Jack. I still can't even pronounce the last name.
Somebody had
to blast when I wrote about him. Absolutely deranged, and I had people. He's no question. He's one of the most dangerous people on the. It is. This stuff is funny, and no question about it. But he is one of the most dangerous people on the far right. He was. I mean, I had people saying, "Meet me at the Capitol." That kind of. This was right before January 6th, like stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, he put me on blast on Twitter once. He actually stole some of my footage and then edited part of it to make it look different than what had actually happened, which I was more bothered by. Which meant I had to go and find the footage beforehand and spend like an hour and a half just to clip out so people would see the whole truth. But in the meantime, it was like not fun. Okay, I think we have. Did you have one more thing? Sorry.
No.
Right,
but
oh no, you do. Say you do.
All right. Jack was listed on one of those things. Wanted for the wanted for questioning things from the January 6th committee, like that kind of thing. I've always wondered what happened. If that was, I mean, I never heard that he testified. I'm interested to know if.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know on that. That'd be interesting to find out. All right, we have one more clip, I believe.
You're not conservative, are you?
That's debatable.
I don't think it's debatable. You're definitely not conservative. You're dressed in this disgusting outfit.
Senator Michael Kennedy to get Senate.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're dressed like a tranny.
What have you done to prevent drugging and mutilation of children in the name of
What are you doing to
transgenderism.
prevent
I'm
the
having a good
homosexual?
time. I'm dressed up.
You're normalizing transgenderism and homosexuality. That's
We could have a
disgusting. That doesn't
conversation.
belong
You're just
in the
interrupting me.
conservative
So
party.
you're going to go share that. If
Yeah.
you don't want to have a conversation, then don't talk.
What's the conversation is you are like what is detrimental
Thank
to
you
the
for letting me
conservative
know what
party.
you think. Thank you for
Yeah,
letting me know.
thank you.
All right. You
I
take care.
appreciate your nonchalantness when you're dressed like this.
There's so much to unpack there. Number one, there are absolutely conservative transgender individuals. I've interviewed them. So that this idea that any group is monolithic is, let's just throw that out with the bathwater. But obviously, this guy is showing his hatred towards this individual who is like, no, man, I actually am a conservative. I'm just here. I'm different from you. What do you guys all think about that?
So that's Lady MAGA, and I think that's what they go by. But that person plays a lot of characters, doesn't just do drag, and has actually been to Freedom Corner and wasn't in the full drag, but is friends with a lot of conservatives, a Proud Boy den mother, if you will. That's the title she goes by. But so they do have friends there, and they like made somebody's wedding dress that was some super popular thing. But still, people were just like, you know, this is an abomination. This is so terrible. But that Lady MAGA speaks out against Drag Time Story Hour. So Lady MAGA will be like, you know, I dress in costume. I wear this drag, but I'm not, you know, the people at Drag Time Story Time are taking off their clothes and grooming children, which isn't happening. They're just
Which doesn't happen at all. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So Lady MAGA is wearing drag, but they say that they only wear drag around adults. It's for adults, not children. So therefore, they're better than the Drag Time Story Hour queens or whatever. But yeah, a lot of that's what I was mentioning earlier. Is a lot of conservatives were so offended by that they couldn't even keep it to themselves. You know, they had to confront them, and they also, you know, had to say it on camera. Like, it's disgusting, and like, I don't know what gives you the audacity to just speak like that to people.
I know,
like,
right?
What I mean, I get you have your rights and everything.
They're
but
just
that
hateful.
person is there with you,
Right.
and has been for years. They didn't just show up. Lady MAGA didn't just show up. They might have even. Maybe they weren't at J6, but like Harry's, there's a Proud Boy bar here and stuff where they were hanging out after J6. Lady MAGA's been there and is friends with a lot of them. And that's why they were there. Like, they were allowed to be there and be out in the open like that. But bigots gonna do biggest things, right?
Right.
Well, Kyle is friends with Nick Fuentes.
Exactly. He's a groiper.
Yeah. and Nick famously confronted Lady MAGA at CPAC. And what was it? 2000, whatever the last time Nick was actually allowed inside CPAC. So 17,
2 years ago, I think. Yeah.
It's all bleeding together in my brain. But yeah, Kyle is, well, it had to be more than 2 years ago because I was in Florida. I was in DC because they were.
Oh, 3 then.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Because he wasn't allowed in Florida. I tried to FPAC. But yeah, you know, Kyle and him are friends, and so Kyle's just doing what Nick couldn't do because Nick isn't allowed to be there.
Right. Crazy, sad stuff. All right, let's get to Colin. I'm assuming we have some super chats, questions, whatnot. I need to put my glasses on to read them.
Oh Lord.
All right. Fly chocolate fly.
Amanda.
Anxiety.
Anxiety? No anxiety. We have a great audience. We love our audience.
We don't have a good audience. The two of us.
Yeah, your mods have handled it, but I've already gotten some messages about some.
Ours are very poor. They don't have super chat money. It's fine.
Yeah, right on. Tony D. We love Tony D. Trump loves talking about water, yet doesn't care about Flint, Michigan. This is a solid point. You're right. So the one part of the country that still doesn't have clean water and needs help has not been helped. Why is Trump not talking about that versus some nonsense that never happened in Beverly Hills? Well, because Beverly Hills is where all his wealthy donors are. I mean, you know. Great guest tonight. Thank you, Tony D. Yes, very good guest. We appreciate the $5. So smart, so stupid, $4.99. Thank you. Trans people have existed long before and continue to exist long after the Conservative Party and these fascists. That is absolutely correct. And in fact, if you look at some of the ancient languages, you will see that there are 3 pronouns built into those languages. It's not just his and her. Transgenderism is 100% been with us since the dawn of time. And if you study, sorry, but I did do biology in school, you know, like male and female are 2 ends of a spectrum, and there's variants that exist between the two. That's just science. Like, but you say that to some of these folks and they're like, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, thank you for that. Is that it, Colin? Oh.
Yes.
Any good questions or anything? Nope. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about it. All right. So I want to give everybody, all of my guests, I want you to, let's go through Amanda, Anarchy in the same order you're in. Tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, and keep up with your work.
So I'm on all platforms as @NoTurtleSoup, Twitter mostly, but also Threads, Mastodon, BlueSky, TikTok, Facebook, Tumblr, I don't know. And then I have a Substack at turtlediaries.net.
Right on. Anarchy.
So I'm on Twitter, Satire AP, SATIREAP. I also do a live stream, so I'm on YouTube and Twitch. Just search Anarchy Princess and it'll bring that up. And then I am working on a Substack. I'm contributing with a friend. He's the writer. I'm just putting some J6 like trial stuff on there. So that's the voice list. But if you find my Twitter, you can find that. So.
Oh, right on. Eric, where are you at these days?
Well, still on. I know how much you don't like it, Tina, but I am still on Twitter.
I think I'm the only person in this group that's not on Twitter anymore.
At Eric Levai, which I'm at on Instagram, and I'm thinking about starting on my own after watching some, what you do here and watching AP's stuff. I want to start my own kind of live streaming, and so feel free to follow me on any of those platforms. And I just want to say I love doing the show, and it's important to support independent media. But it's particularly a real honor to be on this show with 3 people. I mean, all of you, but Tina, you and I, we're close. We know each other. With the other 3 of you that I'm real fans of, and all of you are doing absolutely critical work, and none of you get paid for what you deserve. And thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Indeed. And Zach, you've got a Substack now. I know you're still on Twitter too, but
yeah,
what's your
ZD
Substack?
Roberts on everything. I'm on BlueSky and Twitter basically, and Instagram, I guess. But yeah, Visu News, VISU News .substack.com.
Excellent. So thank you guys all for joining us today. This was a great panel, very informative. I loved getting all these very different perspectives on all of these items. And everybody else, thank you for joining us. We'll be back on Monday. Have a fantastic weekend.